I looked up at Vince, and Vince was standing at the door, and he looked at me just as sincerely as he could, and he went, like, I'm so sorry. And I said, don't worry, man. I said, this ain't, I'll be back. So, you know, I went to Birmingham and, you know, and rehab for 9 months because I still hadn't, the only thing I hadn't done in my career is I hadn't worked with Paul. Worked with Sean, I'd worked with Scott, I worked with X-Pac, but I never had done anything with Paul. And Paul, you know, Paul is one of my dearest friends in the world. So it was just like, I wanted to work with Paul before I was done. And so when I got healthy and we had that Hell in a Cell, which kind of basically solidified what I wanted to do, you know, to prove that I was without a doubt probably the greatest technical wrestler ever to hit the mats. I remember that night I was moving around, some guy in Houston stood up, he goes, Jesus Christ, Nash, it took you 7 minutes to do that. I said, hey, I got 25. I'm trying to waste it, you know.
So you got your shot to work with Paul?
Yeah, I got my shot to work with Paul, which basically then I kind of, you know, and to me, I came back and performed, and I think we outdid that. The year before's Bad Blood, I think we outperformed by 40 or 50% buy rate wise.
Probably so. That was a good match.
It was a good match, and once again, it proved that psychology is a king to all the, you know, Cirque du Soleil shit that these guys think draws money now.
At some point after that match, it came to an end with the WWE.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna do the movie, and they kind of hemmed and hawed about me doing the Punisher movie. And you know, I had to cut my hair for the part.
Right.
And it was just one of those things where just like, you can't. It is what it is. I'm not saying that it's bad or indifferent. It's just that if you work for that company, then it becomes your life. And I was at a point in my life where, number one, when I had no money, you didn't tell me what to do. Let alone, you know, I was, you know, considered by most people pretty wealthy at this point. So it was just like, I was doing investments. My wife was doing real estate. The market that we were in was taking off. We were making money on both ends of it. And, you know, you make a couple $1 million with Vince for 3 shots. That ain't bad. I mean, it wasn't a bad run.
Not at all.
I mean, in his eyes, I'm sure it wasn't that great. But for me, I mean, hell, it was a good little piece of business.
At the bitter end, or maybe not the bitter end, at the end of that last run, how was it voiced? Who communicated with who to say it's over?
I think that for them, I mean, they knew that they know that the bottom line with Kevin Nash is money.
Sure.
And they knew that they couldn't. I wasn't going to take a pay cut.
Yeah.
And they didn't feel that they got their money's worth, and whether they did or whether they didn't, I mean, just on buy rates alone for that Hell in a Cell over the year before paid for me that year, or damn near close to it. But I looked at it, and it was one of those deals. I said, well, you know, Vince said, what do you want to do? And my neck was real bad. You know, my neck was killing me. I couldn't sleep. I had a bunch of bone spurs in my neck. So I said, you know, let me go get my neck cleaned out and see where we're at. So I went and had my neck cleaned out, and that relieved a lot of the pain I had. But still, it was like, I just got to the point where I was so disenchanted with the creative that I didn't want to do anything. And then they offered me, you know, to be with creative, and I said I would. And then the next day I said I wouldn't. And I just, at that point, I got operated on, and I just basically just rode that operation out till the contract ran out, and then that was the end of it.
I must tell you that personally, I'm thrilled that you're in NWA TNA, but have you ever thought back, maybe that Kevin Nash, as a creative person in what's now the WWE, you could have made a difference creatively? That's where they're the weakest.
See, I don't think you can. You know, there's so many people living in what we call the wrestling bubble. We used to always say, you know, if you stand this close to a painting, an oil painting, and you say, what do you see? You'll say, I don't know, maybe purple. And you say, well, take a step back. Oh, it's lilies and flowers, and it's an open field, and you've got so many people in that company that are in that wrestling bubble that, you know, they're still thinking that, you know, that that red, white, and blue is the way to go when your two biggest heroes on TV are a corrupt cop on The Shield and a gangster, Tony Soprano.
Mm-hmm. The anti-hero. They learned their lesson once. They just can't learn it again.
They think that there's going to be some goodness that comes out of this country. You know, that's what people are going to latch on to. That's not it. And their creative team, at that point there was 8 of them. There wasn't one of them I'd go out and have a beer with, let alone, I mean, they're just not, I'm not saying I'm the hippest guy, but for 45, I mean, I'm pretty damn hip. And I mean, at 45, they're like, you know.
You're not hip enough, get out.
Yeah, and they're not hip. They're not even, I mean, I'm hipper than they are, and I'm 45. I'm thinking my 8-year-old kid's more with it than these guys.
What would it take? Is it going to take another anti-hero, a Diesel, a Stone Cold Steve Austin, a Goldberg? Is that the next big thing? Not Brock Lesnar, obviously, but
I don't think on their crew right now. Maybe Batista, but they're already doing to Batista what they did to me. He was a killer. He had an edge. They gave him good one-liners. Then last week he stuck a flag in 2 guys' asses, which was cutesy, which he wouldn't have done unless he was going to be turning babyface. So they go ahead and they do the exact same thing. Next week he'll have a hard hat on, waving an American flag.
carrying a 2x4 going.
Right. I mean, and it'll be like, well, what happened to Batista? Well, he didn't carry it. You know, we tried to get him over. It's just like, no, man, you don't understand. Doesn't work.
What, in hindsight, to back it up a little bit, would have saved WCW? Now, I know you said before that the President Kennedy reference that we won't belabor, but was there anything even further back than that?
Like I said, though, I mean, you know, people will always refer to, you know, the rise and fall of WCW. It was a rise and fall of Time Warner AOL.
Yeah.
It was an implosion through the entire corporation. Like I said, how was one subsidiary supposed to make it? They were taking funds directly out of us to stop bleeding in other places. They were cutting our funding. They were doing everything that we needed to do to be successful, and we're successful. Those avenues of revenue were being cut on a daily basis. Our expenditure was cut. Things we did while Vince was having a milk truck come out and shooting beer out of it and all these other cool things, all of a sudden we're not allowed to do any of that. Plus we got to cut back on pyro because it costs $40 grand. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's one of those situations. You either compete or not going to compete. But to say that the guys in that locker room were less talented, or the guys behind the cameras were less talented, or guys that were behind the mics were less talented. Yeah. It sure is funny how that same crew of guys were able to. So what's the intangible? The intangibles were all still there. The only thing that changed was management changed.
What's Kevin Nash's legacy? You've had a run of 14 years, 15 years, at various degrees of being at the top of the sport. In 20 years, when there's another Wrestle reunion and we bring Kevin Nash in, what are the fans going to say to Kevin Nash? You
know what? I really don't care, to be truthful. I mean, to me, it's just like, when I was growing up and I was a high school All-American basketball player, I thought that was the pinnacle of my life. And when I went to college, became a good basketball player in college, and you know, got my choice of the Honeys, I thought that was the pinnacle of life. I went over to Europe, played a little ball, hooked up with some Honeys over there. Thought that was the pinnacle of my life. Got into wrestling, well, strip joints first, hooked up with some Honeys. Thought that was and it may have been a pinnacle.
That may have been it.
But I mean, you know, when you look back at it, it's just like, it's just it's 15 years of my life. Hopefully I get that the next 15, if the next 15 are better than, because each 15 years or each 10 years is better than the last. So to me, I mean, I look at it as the people that were my friends that I laughed with, they'll know how special it was. The fans, the true fans, the people that bought my shirts and stood in line in Montreal for 4 hours to get I mean, all those people, anybody that comes up to the airport and just looks and goes, I really appreciate what you did. I mean, that all makes it worth, because all of us leave a piece of our body out there every night, and every night we go out there, whether, you know, the Smart Marks and Meltzer and all these other jack-offs want us, you know, they don't do nothing, you know. To me, all these dirt guys, all they ever do is say, well, how fucking shitty the business is and how this is and how that is. Well, why don't we shut it down and then you see what you can do for a living? Because I find punctuation problems in every paragraph. I mean, they're calling themselves journalists. They write like they're in 7th grade. I mean, come on. They're telling me that I can't work, and they're not even journalists. They can't even write a damn paragraph.
Sounds like when wrestling finally is closed up for you.
I would hope right now that the reason I'm in TNA is I hope that we can create an alternative for guys to work besides Vince, and that we can create competition, because competition is the only thing that's going to make this business be successful again. And, you know, like I've had people come up and say, well, you know, this time maybe you should give back. Maybe you should give back. I'm thinking, I can barely turn my head. I can't sit down to take a shit without feeling pain in my neck, back, knees, my elbows. I don't wake up ever without both my arms asleep. I'm miserable 24 hours a day. I said, well, how much more? What more I got to give back?
You don't seem miserable, honestly.
No, good-looking guy, you know. God bless me. A little bit of charisma, some honey. No, not anymore. I'm with my wife.
I'm sorry. We'll edit that out.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah, no, just my wife now, honey.
Kev, we're running out of time, but the last couple of minutes, NWA TNA, you and Scott are back in the top of your game, and quite honestly, haven't looked this good in a long time, what you're doing for the TNA promotion.
You know, it's funny because when Scott and I, neither one need money now, so it's like it's actually back to when you broke in and you didn't make any money. Yeah. It's wrestling for the sake of wrestling. It's wrestling because it's fun to do. It's wrestling because because Scott and I used to always say, you know, you get in this business and you're a starving artist, and all of a sudden you make money, and all of a sudden you sign the lithographs. Mm-hmm. You know, this is a chance to actually sit there and once again kind of, and being around Dusty's great, and being around, I mean, Jeff's been a long-time friend, and, you know, there's a really good mix of old and new there.
Paige is there, too.
Paige is there. I mean, I've got a lot of my friends there, so to me, it's a perfect situation.
It's fun again.
It is fun.
Good.
3 times a week, I mean, that's about all I can take. Get a little old.
What a pleasure it's been to see.
People always ask me about McMahon. You didn't ask me what I thought about Vince McMahon.
What do you think about Vince McMahon?
I think that Vince McMahon is one of the, I love him. People have always thought that there was heat between us. It's just that he's such an alpha male. And he's a man's man. You either love Vince or you don't love Vince. And I just want to say to you, Vince, that no matter what you think, and I know you think I fucked you the last 2 years because I was hurt so much, but that was my body. It wasn't my heart. So I'll never come back to work for you, but I just wanted to tell you that I love you. Bye.
Whoa, it's always unpredictable with Kevin Nash. Kevin, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you, and I'm glad you're still back in the business. We need you here. For Wrestle Reunion and for Kevin Nash, I'm Scott
Vivid Video.
Vivid Video. I'm Scott Hudson. We'll see you next time.